What's up, tribe? This is my review of My House, season 1, episode 3. That's a lie. That ain't episode 3. Episode 7. My bad. Um, this episode was all about Precious, and if you guys have been watching my videos and you've been following me, you know I really love Precious. And by the end of this episode, I was even more in love with Precious, and the reason being, me and her are kindred spirits. We have so much in common. Like hearing her tell her story, not the first part of the story, but the towards the end of the episode, which I'll get to that. But anyway, so we start off with she's going to commentate a ball in Detroit, so she's landing at the airport, and she's again giving us some insight into her life. How crazy her life is, and with the traveling, and she said sometimes she feels like her life is just out of control. She's got so much going on. She's moving here and there, and she was like, but I wouldn't mind being in a relationship. Being in a relationship, finding a special person to spend my life with. And so we see her with her drag dad. She goes to the gun range and he meets her there, her drag dad and uncle. And okay, this is how stupid I am, y'all. Y'all know I'm still learning. And she said, I meet my dad at the gun range, my dad and my uncle. Y'all know I thought she was talking about her blood, like biological dad and uncle for like a second. And then I was like, is she talking about her real dad or her drag dad? It took me a minute. But I caught on before she said it. I figured it out. So anyway, see, I'm learning. But she talks about how her biological dad really wasn't a major part of her life and how her drag dad is really her father. And she was saying how she even wants to change her name because why you want to carry the name of a man who ain't do shit for you? And I feel you on that one, boo. Here. Change your name. Do what you got to do. Um, but her drag dad shows up in this bad fur coat. They in Detroit, so you know how they do up in Detroit. And that thing is bad. Ooh, I want that coat. That thing was bad. And they go to the gun range and they spending some time together. And she's just she has experience at the gun range. They got the other kind of experience. It's funny because the owner of the gun, the guy that works at the gun range was like, so you guys have some experience, and they kind of looked like legal experience, maybe not. But they didn't say all that. That's just me. But so anyway, they do some shooting on the gun range, and she definitely knows her way around a gun. Not somebody I would have run into in a dark alley, right? Um, and she tells the story of being in Detroit. I mean, excuse me, being in Boston and her car getting. She said, what made me start really being aware of my surroundings and really getting into shooting and that kind of thing was my car getting shot up. And she said, we were in Detroit. Dang, I keep saying Detroit. I'm sorry. They were in Boston. And they had just left a show. She said it was a car and friends. They were in the car rapping, having a good time and all of that. And somebody just pulled up next to them and just shot up the car. I don't know if it was mistaken identity. I don't know if it was somebody in the car that had pissed somebody off at the show. Like whatever happened. And she says that even to this day she suffers from PTSD. Like if she feels like a car is following behind, been behind her too long, she'll pull over and let the car pass. Or when she hears certain noises, like she was like, that shit is real, and it is. It definitely is. And she might want to go talk to somebody about that. But again, I ain't nobody's therapist. I'm just saying, you might want to go talk to somebody. Um, and she starts talking about her dating life / sex life, what have you. And she talks about how, when she travels to these different cities, she keeps her jacked account updated on what city she's in and her social media. So that, basically if people reach out to her, she's open to meeting people. She's open to dating, and as much as she travels, she don't have no problem dating people that are in some of these cities she goes to, because I'm sure some of the cities she frequents more often than others. And um and then we see her putting on her face, and she was saying how sometimes she likes to put on her drag face. Sometimes she gives you a lot, sometimes she gives you a little bit. But she talked about how her auntie, she learned how makeup from her auntie, and how she used to like to play house as a kid. She's giving us her story, and you learning so much more about her. And her makeup looks nice. You know what I'm saying? She was like, she doesn't overdo it. Like, she doesn't feel like she has to have the full, like what you might see on RuPaul. Like, she has a nice beat. You know what I mean? Like, what you would see somebody go out to party with. It was just a nice beat. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't exaggerated, but she looked nice. And she talks about, her first sexual experience was playing house, and she identifies as being a pansexual. She said that she's attracted to men, but she's also attracted to transgender. And she said that she like them light to dark. You know what I mean? She don't discriminate based on complexion. And so, we see her go to the ball and, MC the ball. And she's talking about, basically, because the ball is her dad's ball. And it's the fuck love ball. And she said one of his infamous balls. So I feel like that her dad does a lot of balls. And he's well known in the ball community in Detroit and maybe even outside of Detroit. But in this one, you see that this ball is different from the balls we've seen before. It didn't look like it was as big of a ball, but it also looked like it was a little bit more intense. Now, I ain't going to blame it on being in Detroit, but I'm just going to say that they was in Detroit. But people would, we've seen in other episodes where people get cut, or they call it chopped, people get chopped for different reasons, and it's political. People say, the judges sometimes, it's all about, political and stuff like that. And we saw a situation where a guy got chopped, and his house didn't seem to think he should have got chopped, and they was about to roll up on him, and they had to be like, yo, back up, hold up, back up. And Precious was like, see, this is why I stay at the gun range, because y'all motherfuckers be getting real antsy. I was like, oh shit. But she went on to just talk about how no matter how she's feeling, like, she's paid to do a job, and she has to get the crowd hype, and she has to, make it interesting and keep it going, and like all of that stuff. She's like, my energy feeds into the crowd, like they feed off of me, and if I'm not hype and I'm dry, then they're gonna be dry, and that ain't what people paying for. And so she was talking about how sometimes she ain't always feeling it, but she has to put on a brave face, which I think that's something that we all sort of struggle with, that in my job I have to be on. Like, I tell my friends all the time, when you work in the office, you can go in, put your bag down, get you a cup of coffee, maybe have a kiki around, the water cooler or whatever, log in, and you talk to people when you feel like talking to people. I've worked in those types of jobs, and don't get me wrong, I ain't putting it down. All I'm saying is, but when you're in the kind of job where you're on like that, and people expect you to just be on from the door, it can be hard sometimes if you ain't feeling it, if you're not in a good mood, or it is what it is. But sometimes it's hard sometimes. And she was just talking about, that sometimes she just ain't always in the mood to, but she has to get it done. And we see some different categories. We see a lot of ball. They show you a lot of this ball, which was great. Looked like it was a fun ball. Looked like it was a good time. They had the different categories, and because it was called the Fuck Love Ball, a lot of the categories were around romance and stuff. Like, one was what was it? It was something in blood. Like, they were mixing and then they had like a Victoria's Secrets where they had the bikinis and everything. They had different categories. Then she really kind of really tells us her love story. Like, in the beginning, she's telling us her history growing up without her dad, and her mom and her aunties raising her, and she doesn't really tell us how she hooks up with her drag dad, but she basically says, like, that he is my father. He gets me together when I need it. He puts me in my place, but he loves me unconditionally. And the producers asked her dad when they were at the gun range, like, basically, would you take a bullet for Precious? He was like, hell yeah, like, without doubt. Like, he said it without even thinking about it. And so that is definitely a family. That is definitely a place where she feels comfortable, where she feels loved and accepted. So towards the end, we see her at the beach. She's back in New York, and she's at the beach. And she was saying how she's a water person. And see, this is the part where I'm talking about I feel her. She's a water person, so am I. I have a water, my sign is Cancer. I have a water sign, and I don't desire, I need water. I need to be like, my hair been effed up the last couple of weeks because I've been in water. Like the minute the pool's open, I am there. And my goal is to one day have enough money to have a beach house because I need it. And that's what she was saying. She was like, her schedule doesn't always permit her to be around water. She said, but if it was up to her, she would be at the beach at least once a week. I get it, boo. And she was like, it just centers her. It just brings her back. It calms her. It takes her where she needs to be so she can be refreshed. I get it 100%. Like, I so get that from her. Then she was talking about, they were talking about the ball, like being in love in the ball or dating in the ball scene. And they were talking to a guy, and he was like, that just ain't a good idea. Because, if you and your partner are both in the ball scene, you everybody got an opinion on your relationship. Everybody putting their 2 cents in your relationship. You got people you used to sleep with, he used to sleep with, and you gotta always see each other because you going to the balls. Everybody's going to the balls. It's that small community. And he was saying, like, that just ain't gonna work. Like, it's not a good idea. And because so much of Precious life is the ball scene, that makes it even harder. Her traveling, her being in the ball scene, like it makes it even harder for her to find somebody. But she goes on to talk about how she wants to be in love. She wants a partner. She wants to share her life with somebody. She wants to be with someone. And again, I get it. Like, I'm cool with being single, but I would like to be in a relationship. I'm not going to accept less just to be in a relationship. And that's where, Precious is. She was saying that she's been mistreated in a lot of her relationships, but because she allowed it to happen, because she allowed herself to be taken advantage of or to be mistreated. She talked about her last relationship was in 2016, and it was cool until, she said she realized the only time he called her was when he needed something. Or she would hear stories about him talking to somebody else or dating other people or messing around with other people. And so you get caught in that. You know what I mean? Like, you want to be with somebody, but you're not going to allow yourself to be mistreated at the same time. And there is a standard that you have to maintain, but it's not always easy to maintain the standard. And so, like I said, the last, like, 7 minutes of the episode was everything. And I just felt like she was in my head, right? But it was a good episode. Like I said, it was all about Precious. They gave me a good 27 minutes of getting in her life. And again, like I said, I always just learn so much when I watch My House. And now with Pose, I have friends who grew up in the 80s, who were in the ball scene, who had always talked about it. And so to see it, and to see it so well represented, it's a great time, especially during Pride Month and everything else that's going on. So I just want to say that I'm in, again, it was a great episode. Give it a thumbs up. I highly recommend you, this is your first video, go back to the beginning, watch the whole series. It is on Viceland, and I've been getting some of my comments. People have been asking me, where is it? It's on Viceland. It's not, somebody thought it was a YouTube series. It's not a YouTube series. It's on the Viceland channel. And I didn't even know I had the Viceland channel until I just put it in my DVR and let it pick it up. Because I had heard of other shows that came on Viceland, and I was just like, oh wow, I didn't know I could, I just didn't know where to find it, and I never looked for it. So try just putting, if you are interested in looking at the show, try putting it in your DVR. And see if you have the channel, because I can't tell you what the number is in your area, but it is on the Viceland is an actual channel, like OWN or Bravo. It's a channel, and that's where it comes on. So I've been getting that in my comments that people can't find it, and that's where it is. So with that being said, I've been rambling these last few minutes, but if you like the video, go ahead and subscribe, hit the little bell, and drop a comment. Let me know how you feel. Let me know what you think. But definitely check it out. Peace.